I stare at the flickering candles stuck in a store-bought cupcake, the tiny flame dancing as if mocking my solitary celebration. 26 years on this earth, and here I sit alone at my kitchen table, the silence broken only by the occasional car passing by outside my apartment window. My phone lights up again. Fourth time in the last hour. Mom and Dad. 7 years of silence, and now this. My hands shake as I reach for the device, then pull back as if it might burn me. The stark white walls of my modest apartment suddenly feel like a fortress, a sanctuary I've built brick by brick. No raised voices here, no walking on eggshells, no Rachel. The memory flashes unbidden our childhood home with its perpetual cloud of tension, the constant orbit around my sister's moods. The way my parents' eyes would flick to Rachel whenever she entered a room, assessing, preparing. My phone buzzes again, rattling against the wooden table. The cupcake's frosting has started to droop in the candle's heat. Maybe it's an emergency. Maybe someone died. Maybe I'm a fool. I swipe the screen and press the phone to my ear, my voice barely above a whisper. Hello? There's a brief pause, a sharp intake of breath, and then my father's voice fills my ear. It's older, gruffer, but unmistakable. Megan, sweetheart, happy birthday. His forced cheerfulness lands like a false note, jarring and wrong. My father never remembered birthdays without my mother's reminder stand. He certainly never called me sweetheart. Richard, let me talk to her. My mother's voice, closer to the receiver now. Megan, is that you? Oh, we've missed you so much. The words come too quickly, tripping over themselves in their eagerness. A knot forms in my stomach, familiar and sickening. This isn't a reconciliation call. Why are you calling? I ask, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. Silence stretches between us, thin and fragile. I can almost hear them exchanging glances across their living room, the same silent communication they've perfected over decades of managing Rachel's episodes and my reactions to them. Well, we've been thinking about you. My mother again, her voice softening into the tone she used when explaining why we couldn't have friends over, or why my school play wasn't as important as Rachel's therapy appointment. It's been too long, and Mom, I cut her off. It's been 7 years. Why now? Another pause. I hear my father clear his throat. Well, honey, we've had some complications. Your sister's been going through a little trouble. There it is. My free hand curls into a fist on the table. Of course it would be about Rachel. My mother jumps in, words tumbling out. It's nothing serious, just a misunderstanding at work. You know how people can be, how they don't understand Rachel's sensitivity. I say nothing, waiting. I've learned that silence often reveals more than questions. The thing is, my father continues, his businessman voice taking over. We need to hire a good lawyer. Rachel needs proper representation. We need $75,000 by Friday. The amount hits me like a physical blow. $75,000. My entire savings and then some. For Rachel, I repeat flatly. For your sister, my mother corrects, that edge of steel beneath her pleasant tone. Family helps family, Megan. A memory surfaces, unbidden and sharp. My 8th birthday. I'd been unwrapping presents a doll I'd begged for, some books, a sweater from Grandma when Rachel started screaming. She'd been 14 then, tall and gangly with our father's dark eyes and our mother's sharp features. Something about the attention I was receiving had triggered her, and within seconds, my carefully arranged gifts were scattered across the floor as my parents rushed to comfort her. She can't help it, my father had said later, as I gathered my trampled presents. You need to be more understanding. Understanding. As if I hadn't spent my entire childhood understanding. As if I hadn't nursed bruises from Rachel's episodes while being lectured about her difficulties. I think of the family portrait that hung in our hallway for years, everyone smiling except me. I'd tried, but something in my eyes had given me away the knowledge that I wasn't really part of their unit, just an accessory to it. Then, the final memory, the one that changed everything. 18 years old, clutching my college acceptance letter, the full scholarship I'd worked so hard for, my escape. "We had you to take care of Rachel," my father had said, not unkindly, just matter-of-factly. "Your sister needs you more than some college does." My mother nodding in agreement. "We always knew you'd be the responsible one, the one we could count on." That night, I'd packed a single suitcase and called my grandfather. I left without saying goodbye. "Megan, are you still there?" My mother's voice pulls me back to the present. "We can discuss a payment plan if that's easier." I look at the cupcake before me. The candle has burned down completely, drowning in a pool of its own wax. "No," I say, cutting off my father's beginning pitch. "No, I don't think so." "Megan." I end the call mid-plea. For a long moment I sit motionless, staring at the darkened cupcake. Then I stand, walk to my bookshelf, and pull out a worn leather journal. The words "never again" are written in faded ink on the cover, a promise I made to myself the day I left. I open to a fresh page, write today's date, and then, with a steady hand, "They called. They want money. Some things never change." What would you do if your family only remembered you existed when they needed something? Would you answer that call after 7 years of silence? I close the journal and place it back on the shelf, suddenly aware of how peaceful my apartment is, how completely it belongs to me, how free I am. Their problems are no longer mine. The blue light of my computer screen casts shadows across my face as I click through court records. My office feels smaller today. The walls of awards and certificates that usually remind me how far I've come now seem like they're closing in. I stare at the headline on my screen, reading it for the third time. "Woman assaults coworker. Claims emotional regulation issues." Rachel's face stares back at me from the article photo. She looks so much like Mom now. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Jeff says, leaning against my doorframe. His usual easy smile fades when he sees my expression. "Everything okay, Megan?" I minimize the window, my hand trembling slightly as I reach for my coffee mug. "Just some family." Jeff hesitates, then steps inside and closes the door. "I know that look," he says, settling into the chair across from me. "I didn't speak to my parents for 5 years." I look up, surprised. "You never mentioned that." "Not something you put on a resume," he says with a half smile. "My father was controlling. Mother enabled it. When I finally set boundaries, they went scorched earth, told the whole family I abandoned them." "How did you handle it?" I ask, recognizing my own story in his words. "Kept living my life. Built something they couldn't tear down." He stands, straightening his tie. "Whatever you're dealing with, remember you don't owe toxic people a place in your life, even if they're family. Especially if they're family." Jeff nods but doesn't press further. That's what I appreciate about him. He respects boundaries, something my family never learned. After he leaves, I reopen the article. It wasn't just one incident. There were others, 5 workplace incidents in 3 years, all quietly settled, all paid for. All buried until someone finally pressed charges. My phone vibrates. Grandmother. "Megan, honey, I need to tell you something," she says without preamble. Her voice sounds older than I remember, frailer. "Your parents have been telling stories about you." My stomach tightens. "What kind of stories?" "That you abandoned the family because you couldn't handle responsibilities. That you were jealous of the attention Rachel needed." She pauses, her breath crackling through the line. "They've made your mother into some kind of martyr, poor Ellen, dealing with an ungrateful daughter while caring for Rachel." I press my fingers against my closed eyes. "And Dad?" "Oh, Robert's playing his part perfectly. We've given Rachel everything she needs to succeed." As if throwing money at problems fixes them. The familiar edge returns to her voice. And that sister of yours, she tells anyone who listens that you abandoned the family out of selfishness. The weight of their lies settles on my shoulders like a familiar heavy coat. 7 years of silence, and they've been rewriting history the whole time. My phone pings with a text. Grandfather. You don't owe them anything, Maggie. Not one damn thing. I smile despite myself. At 82, he's still my fiercest defender. I shut down the computer and gather my things. My weekly appointment with Dr. Landry isn't until tomorrow, but I call to see if she has any cancellations today. The warm lighting of her office, the comfortable chair where I've shed so many tears over the years, I need that safe space now. By the time I get home, Emma is waiting at my door with takeout bags and a bottle of wine. Bad day? She asks, taking in my appearance. The worst. She follows me inside, setting out containers of pad thai on my kitchen counter. Want to talk about it? I hand her plates from the cabinet. Found out Rachel assaulted a coworker. Parents are asking for money to make it go away. Emma's eyebrows shoot up. After 7 years of silence? And apparently they've spent that time telling everyone I'm the villain who abandoned my poor troubled sister, I add, pouring us each a glass of wine. Emma's hand covers mine. Family isn't always blood, Meg. You know that. I nod, thinking of my grandfather, of Emma, of Dr. Landrith, people who actually show up when I need them. My phone buzzes with a voicemail. Dad. Megan, if we don't get this money by Friday, Rachel could go to jail. This isn't a game. His voice sounds thinner than I remember, stretched with worry. Delete. An email notification from Mom, where I bandaged my own cuts and calmed my own fears. Delete. A text from an unknown number. You always were the selfish one. Block. I open my laptop, determined to finish what I started at the office. It takes 3 hours of searching, but I find it student loans opened in my name during my college years. Loans I never applied for, never signed for, never knew existed. My hands stop trembling. Instead, a calm clarity washes over me, the kind that comes with certainty. The next morning, I call the credit bureau. Yes, ma'am, I understand, the agent says after I explain. This is clearly identity fraud. We'll start the dispute process immediately. Relief floods through me. Thank you. After hanging up, I drive to the phone store and change my number. The young clerk smiles as she hands me my new SIM card. All set. Back in my apartment, I open my laptop and begin drafting a letter to my parents' lawyer. Each word feels like laying another brick in the wall between my past and my future. To whom it may concern. This letter serves as formal notice that I, Megan Carter, will not be providing financial assistance for Rachel Carter's legal matters. Furthermore, I have initiated identity theft investigations regarding student loans fraudulently opened in my name. I pause, my fingers hovering above the keyboard. Grandfather's words echo in my mind. You don't owe them anything. He's right. I've spent years rebuilding what they tore down: my confidence, my peace, my sense of worth. I won't let them demolish it again with guilt and manipulation. I finish the letter, each word a declaration of independence. Have you ever discovered that someone was telling lies about you for years? How do you rebuild your reputation when your own family has been undermining you? Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you simply build a new life so solid that their lies can't touch it anymore. I spot her the moment I push through the revolving doors of Thompson & Klein. My mother stands in the marble-floored lobby, her caramel highlights catching the morning light. Designer handbag clutched against her chest. My stomach plummets. She's dressed for an audience in a tailored navy dress that probably cost more than my rent. 3 steps in, she notices me and her face transforms, eyes widening as tears spring forth on command. For a moment, I'm 8 years old again, watching her practice expressions in the bathroom mirror before my father's business dinners. Megan! Her voice carries across the lobby, drawing the attention of the security guard and several colleagues passing through. "Oh, sweetheart, finally!" I freeze mid-stride, briefcase suddenly heavy in my hand. This isn't random. This is deliberate. She's created a stage and cast herself as the heartbroken mother. She rushes toward me, pulling a stack of photographs from her purse. "Look what I brought," she says, voice wavering perfectly. "Remember this Christmas? And here's your high school graduation." She thrusts the photos at me, ensuring everyone nearby can see. "How could you abandon us like your sister needs you?" My colleague Jenna slows her pace, eyes darting between us with undisguised curiosity. Two interns have stopped completely, watching the drama unfold. An odd calm settles over me. I've spent years imagining this moment, rehearsing it in therapy, dreading it in nightmares. But now that it's here, I feel nothing but a strange, quiet strength. "Mother," I say, keeping my voice level and professional. "This is my workplace. You need to leave." "But Rachel," "is not my responsibility." The words come out clear and firm. "Never." Her face flushes, the practiced vulnerability slipping for just a second. "After everything we've done for you?" The security guard approaches, his expression concerned. "Miss Carter, is everything all right?" "No, it's not." I turn to him, shoulders squared. "This woman is harassing me and disrupting my workplace. She needs to be escorted out." My mother's mouth falls open. This isn't the script she prepared for the one where I crumble under public scrutiny, where guilt drives me back into line. "I'm her mother," she protests, voice rising. "Tell him, Megan. Tell him who I am." "I know exactly who you are," I say, suddenly aware that I'm standing taller than I have in years. "And so will everyone else," continue making a scene. The guard nods, understanding passing between us. "Ma'am, come with me." As he leads her toward the exit, my mother looks back, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. "This isn't over, Megan." But watching her diminish through the glass doors, I realize something has ended. Her power over me. The fear that has lived in my chest since childhood. My phone vibrates in my pocket. Unknown number. I silence it, only for it to start ringing again immediately. When I reach my desk, there's a message waiting. "Elaine wants to see you. Now." Elaine Carter, Director of Client Relations and my direct supervisor, doesn't look up when I enter her office. Her face is tight with annoyance. "Your father has called 3 times in the last hour," she says, finally meeting my eyes. "Claims there's a family emergency requiring your immediate attention. Said you weren't answering your phone." She taps her pen against the desk. "He tried to convince me to give him your current address." My throat tightens. I'm so sorry about that. And about my mother in the lobby. They're toxic. Elaine finishes, her expression softening unexpectedly. "I've dealt with toxic family too. Recognize the tactics the moment your father started talking about your poor sister and how you've abandoned your family responsibilities." Relief crashes through me like a wave. "I didn't abandon anyone. I escaped." Elaine nods. "Take whatever time you need to deal with this. And Megan, security has been notified not to allow either of your parents into the building again." Back at my desk, I unlock my phone to find 17 notifications. Rachel has been busy. Her Instagram post gleams with practiced indignation. "Some sisters abandon family when times get tough. Some of us stay and fight." My finger hovers over the screen for only a second before I block her. Then my parents. Then every flying monkey they've ever sent my way. Each tap feels like breaking a chain, and when I'm done, I'm lighter. The guilt that usually follows these small acts of self-protection is noticeably absent. Grandfather's home smells of pipe tobacco and old books, despite the fact he hasn't smoked in 15 years. The familiar scent steadies me as I wait in his study, manila folder clutched in my hands. My evidence, my truth. "They're here," he says, entering the room with a glass of water for me. His voice is gentle but firm, like always. Rachel came too. "Of course she did. The ambush tactic." I straighten the contents of my folder one last time: therapy reports documenting years of parentification, financial records of accounts opened in my name, photographs of bruises carefully dated and labeled, medical records showing Rachel's diagnoses and my parents' consistent refusal of recommended treatments. I'm ready, I tell him, though my heart against my ribs. They enter like a funeral procession, me father first, face creased with practiced concern, then my mother, eyes already glistening with unshed tears. Rachel trails behind, her expression a perfect mask of wounded innocence. 3 actors who've rehearsed their parts. Megan, my father begins, settling into the armchair across from me. We're here because we love you. I don't answer. Instead, I open the folder and place my therapy intake form from 7 years ago on the coffee table between us. This is why I left, I say, my voice steadier than I thought possible, not because I didn't love you enough, because I finally loved myself. My mother's eyes narrow at the document. What is this? I place another paper beside it. Credit card statements for accounts you opened in my name during my first semester of college. Another page joins it. Hospital records from when Rachel pushed me down the stairs when I was 12. And another. The form where Dad declined Rachel's recommended treatment plan, signed 3 separate times over 5 years. I was never your daughter, I say, the truth flowing through me like a river breaking through a dam. I was Rachel's keeper. I was her emotional regulation. I was the sacrifice you made so you wouldn't have to face her issues. My grandfather moves to stand beside me, his hand warm on my shoulder. I've watched this my whole life, he says, his voice heavy with the weight of years. It ends today. My mother's face hardens as she looks from the evidence to my grandfather. After everything we did for you, this is how you repay us? By poisoning your grandfather against us? When no guilt crashes through me, I realize just how far I've come. We won't help with Rachel's legal troubles, grandfather says firmly. Not this time. My father shifts uncomfortably. You don't understand what's at stake without that money. You'll cut me out of the will? Grandfather interrupts. Head. My mother's smile is thin and certain. We will. I've already changed mine, grandfather replies calmly. Megan is my heir now. The shock on their faces would be comical if it weren't so sad. Financial leverage, their favorite tool, suddenly useless. I turn to my father, asking the question that has haunted me since childhood. Did you ever love me for me? Not for what I could do for Rachel, or you just for being your daughter? His telling silence is the only answer I need. Rachel, sensing the shift in power, stands abruptly. This is bullshit. Her voice rises to that familiar pitch, the one that always preceded destruction in our childhood home. She abandoned us. She's always been jealous of me, and now she's turned Grandpa against us too. She grabs the therapy reports from the table, tearing them in half. These are lies. Tell them, Mom. Tell them how she always exaggerates. My mother doesn't move, her eyes fixed on my grandfather, calculation visible in every line of her face. Rachel's breath comes faster. Fine, don't defend me. She sweeps her arm across the coffee table, sending my carefully organized evidence scattering across the hardwood floor. For the first time, my grandfather sees Rachel clearly, not as the troubled granddaughter everyone must accommodate, but as a grown woman refusing accountability. The realization settles into the lines of his face. I think you should leave now, he tells my parents quietly. After they go, I sit in my grandfather's kitchen, hands wrapped around a mug of tea that's gone cold. I need to prepare. I say, more to myself than to him. They won't stop here. No, they won't, he agrees, reaching for his address book. I know a good lawyer, specializes in harassment case. I nod, already making mental lists. Cease and desist letter, security system for my apartment, new phone number maybe. My phone buzzes with messages from Hannah and Emma, checking in. Then another from my colleague Jenna. Hey, heard about your mom showing up. I've got a great security guy who did my condo after my divorce. Call me if you need anything. My circle of protection, my chosen family. They've created a fortress around me stronger than any wall my parents could breach. At what point does forgiveness become self-destruction? I don't know. But I do know that today, I stood my ground. The battle is far from over, but for the first time in my life, I wasn't standing alone. I sit cross-legged on my living room floor, camera positioned on the coffee table, the red recording light staring back at me like an unblinking eye. My name is Megan Carter. I begin, my voice stronger than I expected. This is the complete, unedited story of what happened in my family. I'm recording this because the truth deserves to exist somewhere besides just in my memories. For the next hour, I speak directly to the camera, documenting everything: the childhood incidents, the stolen college fund, the years of being told my sole purpose was to care for Rachel. I don't cry until I describe the night I left, how grandfather's headlights cutting through the darkness felt like salvation. When I finally stop recording, Hannah sits beside me on the floor, her cardigan sleeve brushing against my arm. "That was brave," she says, her voice gentle but firm. "Really brave." I nod, unable to speak for a moment. I need to understand what really happened with Rachel, what they were hiding all those years. The family therapist's office smells like lavender and old books. Dr. Linden, a woman in her 60s with silver-framed glasses, slides a folder across her desk toward me. Rachel was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder at 14. She says, her eyes kind but direct. With proper treatment, many people with BPD learn to manage their symptoms effectively. I stare at the treatment plans spanning years, all with the same notation at the bottom. Parents declined recommended course of treatment. My stomach twists. They refused treatment for decades? Dr. Linden removes her glasses. Your parents rejected dialectical behavior therapy, family therapy, and even basic medication management. They preferred to handle it within the family. I run my finger over the paper, years of my life summarized in clinical notes. They used me as her treatment plan. We've seen this pattern before, says Elaine, from the advocacy group, her office walls covered with empowerment posters. One child designated as the problem, another as the solution. The solution child isn't allowed to have needs of their own. I clutch my coffee cup tighter. I thought I was alone in this. Far from it, she replies, sliding a brochure toward me. That's why we exist. The text from Cousin David arrives while I'm reviewing notes from yesterday's meeting. Did you really abandon your family because Rachel needed help? Aunt Carol is saying some pretty wild stuff. Before I can respond, more messages arrive from extended family members I haven't heard from in years, each one more bewildering than the last. Your parents are planning a family reunion next month. Noticed you weren't on the invite list. What's going on? Your father showed up at church with Pastor Mike today, asking for prayers for your hardened heart. Then Hannah forwards me a link to the local newspaper's website. My mother's face stares back at me, eyes appropriately teary, beneath the headline. Local family struggles with estrangement, when mental health develops hold. I laugh. A sharp, bitter sound that startles even me. Their desperation is showing. My phone buzzes again. It's David. Just had coffee with your mom. Something felt off. What's really happening here? I take a deep breath and type. It's a long story, but I'd rather tell you my version myself. His response is immediate. I'm listening. By evening, my inbox is flooded. 3 cousins sharing similar stories of being scapegoated by the family. A message from Pastor Mike. Your father didn't tell me the whole story. I'd like to hear your perspective. Most surprisingly, an email from the newspaper editor. Miss Carter, your mother presented what appears to be a one-sided account. We pride ourselves on balanced reporting. Would you care to? The tables are turning so quickly I can barely keep up. Grandfather's open letter to the family arrives in everyone's email simultaneously. For 40 years, I've watched my son and daughter-in-law manipulate the truth about their daughters. I remain silent out of misguided respect. That silence ends today. His words, clear and unflinching, tell the story I could never fully articulate. Hannah offers to speak with any relatives who have questions. My coworkers form a protective circle around my desk when an unfamiliar car lingers in the parking lot. My boss implements new security protocols without me having to ask. The family reunion is canceled when half the guest list declines. Grandmother calls, her voice shaking with long overdue courage. I should have stood up to them years ago, Megan. I'm standing up now. Even Rachel's coworker Tina reaches out. Rachel's been telling stories about you for years. After seeing your parents in action at the office yesterday, I'm questioning everything. The first crack appears at 11:42 p.m. My phone lights up with my mother's number. Megan. Her voice breaks, not with the practiced sob I know so well, but with something raw and unfamiliar. I don't know how to fix this. The next morning, a handwritten letter from my father arrives. Mistakes were made, grievous ones. Then a text from Rachel that simply reads, "I'm starting therapy, real therapy this time." I show Hannah the messages during lunch. She studies them carefully, professional assessment mingling with friendly concern. They're consulting with an actual family therapist, I tell her, after decades of refusal. When toxic systems start to crumble, Hannah says, stirring her tea thoughtfully, real change becomes possible. Not guaranteed, but possible. I nod, feeling neither triumph nor forgiveness, just a strange, quiet certainty. They finally realize their old tactics won't work anymore. The question now, Hannah says, is what you want moving forward. Healing doesn't necessarily mean reconciliation. I look out the window at the spring buds just beginning to open on the trees. I guess that's what I need to figure out. The knock comes at exactly 6 o'clock, just as Hannah predicted would. Right on time, I murmur, smoothing my hands over the stack of folders on the coffee table. They always did believe punctuality next to godliness. Remember, Hannah says from her position near the kitchen doorway, you've already won by being prepared. These are your terms. I nod, take a deep breath as I cross to the door. The perfect picture of contrition. My hand hesitates on the doorknob. 7 years of silence, and now they stand at my threshold like no time has passed at all. I open the door. Megan, sweetheart. Mom steps forward immediately, arms outstretched. The teddy bear, mister? Buttons, my childhood comfort object that mysteriously disappeared when I was 10 dangles from her hand like bait. We've been so... I step back, maintaining the distance. Please come in. Their eyes sweep my apartment, taking in the evidence of my success without them, the framed diploma, the tasteful furniture, the photos of me with people they don't know. Dad's gaze lingers on the laptop open on my dining table, the video call showing grandfather's face watching silently. I didn't realize this would be a group discussion, Mom says, her smile faltering. Grandfather is family too, I say simply. Please, sit down. They arrange themselves awkwardly on my couch, the couch I bought with my first bonus, the one I chose without anyone telling me it was impractical or too expensive or not right space. Megan, Dad begins, pulling an envelope from his jacket pocket. We've been doing a lot of thinking, and we want to make things right. He slides the envelope toward me. This is the first payment toward what was borrowed from your accounts. I don't touch it. $20,000, I say. That's the amount you took from me. Not borrowed took. There's a difference. Rachel shifts forward, her face a mask of practiced emotion. Meg, I can't tell you how sorry I am for everything. Her voice breaks perfect on cue. The way I treated you growing up, the things I did. She reaches for my hand. I've been working through so much, and I just need my sister back. I move my hand away. When did your therapist suggest you say that, Rachel? Her eyes flicker, just for a moment. Surprise, then calculation. The whole church congregation is praying for you. Mom interjects, dabbing at her eyes. Pastor Miller asks about you every Sunday. They all think it's so sad how you abandoned your sister when she needed you most. When she's struggling with her emotional regulation, Dad adds, his voice dropping meaningfully. Family matters like these should stay private, don't you think? For everyone's sake. Mom clutches her chest suddenly. My blood pressure. I forgot my medication in the car. It's remarkable how familiar this dance is, the guilt, the threats, the sudden health concerns. For years, these tactics sent me scrambling to make peace, to fix everything, to be the good daughter they needed me to be. But today, I feel nothing but a cool clarity. I've invited you in because I have something to offer, I say, just as a gentle knock sounds at the door. That would be Emma. Emma walks in, her calm presence like a shield at my back. She nods briefly to my family before taking her place beside me, exactly as we rehearsed. I've prepared 3 options for how we move forward, I continue, opening the top folder on the. Option 1 involves no contact, a legal separation of all financial matters, and documentation of all past fraud for potential future action. Dad's face hardens. Now wait just a minute. I hold up my hand, and to my surprise, he falls silent. Option 2, I continue, involves limited contact under specific conditions. I press play on my phone, and the recording of their birthday call fills the room, their voices demanding money. The casual cruelty of reaching out after 7 years, only because they needed something. Rachel's face drains of color. You recorded us? Instead of responding, I open another folder, laying out bank statements showing the systematic emptying of accounts in my name. Next come the medical records, Rachel's multiple diagnoses, the recommended treatments my parents repeatedly declined, the medications abandoned. Where did you get those? Mom whispers. Those are private. Finally, I say, sliding forward a stack of letters. These are from Aunt Sylvia, Uncle David, Cousin Mark, and others. They've all reached out after learning the truth. They've all offered their support. The room falls completely silent. On the laptop screen, Grandfather watches without speaking, his presence a steady reminder that I'm not alone. My terms for option 2 are non-negotiable, I say, handing each of them a printed sheet. A professional mediator must be present for all family meetings. Rachel continues therapy consistently for 1 full year. You both attend the Parents of Adult Children therapy group at the community center. And a complete financial separation, with a payment plan for what was taken. Mom's face crumples, not in the performative way I've seen countless times, but in genuine despair as the facade finally cracks. Megan, we never meant. Yes, you did, I say quietly. You meant every bit of it. You just never expected to face consequences. Dad stares at his hands, silent tears tracking down his cheeks. Rachel sits frozen, perhaps facing adult accountability for the first time. And option 3? Dad finally asks, his voice rough. Option 3, I say, closing the folders with steady hands, is where you decide which matters more, having me in your life on terms that protect my dignity, or continuing as you always have. I stand, signaling the end of this part of our discussion. The choice is yours. I wake before my alarm, the gentle morning light filtering through my curtains. 1 year. The thought settles over me with a warmth I never expected to feel again. 1 year since I reclaimed my life from decades of obligation and guilt. My morning routine unfolds with a deliberate slowness that still feels like a luxury. No crisis calls to answer, no Rachel to manage, no parents to appease. Just the quiet rhythm of coffee brewing and the soft padding of my feet across hardwood floors. I pause at the gallery wall I've created in my living room. Where once stood formal family portraits with forced smiles are now candid snapshots of chosen family. Hannah laughing during our hiking trip. My coworkers at the team retreat, grandfather teaching me to make his famous blueberry pancakes. These faces reflect back genuine joy, not obligation. At my desk, I open my leather journal, the same one I wrote in that night when they called asking for money. I run my fingers over today's date and write, 1 year since I reclaimed my life. The words flow easily, no longer carrying the sharp edges of anger they once did. My phone chimes with birthday wishes before I've even left for work. Last year I celebrated alone with a single cupcake. Tonight, friends will fill my apartment. The contrast isn't lost on me. To Megan! Hannah raises her glass, her warm brown eyes crinkling at the corners. Who showed us all what courage looks like? My cheeks flush as friends gathered around my dining table join the toast. The table overflows with homemade dishes and bottles of wine. Laughter bubbles up easily, genuine and unguarded. You know, Emma says, passing me another slice of birthday cake, I remember when we first met. You barely smiled. Now look at you. I catch my reflection in the window, me eyes bright, shoulders relaxed, smile unforced. The woman staring back barely resembles the one who sat alone a year ago, terrified to answer her phone. Grandfather arrives late, clutching a small wrapped package. At 82, he still stands tall, though his steps have slowed. This was meant for you all along, he says, pressing the gift into my hands. Inside lies my grandmother's emerald pendant, the one my mother expected to inherit. The gold chain catches the light as I lift it. She wanted you to have it, grandfather whispers. She knew you had her spirit. After everyone leaves, I sit quietly with a cup of tea, taking inventory of the journey. My therapy graduation certificate hangs framed beside my degrees. The contact information for my support group is still pinned to my bulletin board, though now I facilitate more than participate. The volunteer work I do with young adults from toxic homes has become the most rewarding part of my week. I recognize my younger self in their wary eyes and guarded responses. But I also see their potential, waiting to be uncovered once they realize they deserve more. My family has taken different paths through this year. Rachel emails monthly updates from her treatment program. Her messages, once defensive and accusatory, have gradually shifted towards self-awareness. Mother attends Al-Anon meetings, slowly recognizing how her enabling damaged us both. Father remains absent, unable to face the truth about the family he created. Extended family has rallied in unexpected ways. New holiday traditions have formed that honor boundaries rather than trampling them. Cousins who once believed the narrative about my abandonment now understand the fuller truth. The scholarship fund I established for students estranged from family already has its first recipient. Grandfather matched my contribution, doubling its impact. The family recipe book sits on my counter, now filled with contributions from friends who have become family. A letter arrived yesterday from Jessie, a young woman I've been mentoring. You showed me I have choices. She wrote, I always thought I had to accept what my family gave me. Now I know I can build something better. When my phone rings with Rachel's name on the screen, I no longer feel the surge of dread I once did. Happy birthday, she says, her voice steady in a way it never was before. Thank you. I curl up on the window seat, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. I've been thinking about you all day. Rachel continues after a brief silence. About who we were, who I was. She takes a deep breath. I'm sorry for who I was back then. I'm more better. The words hang between us, the first genuine acknowledgement in our entire lives. I'm proud of your progress, I tell her, meaning it. But my forgiveness isn't your finish line. This is your journey now. After we hang up, I open the photo album grandfather gave me months ago. Inside are the few childhood pictures where I'm not overshadowed by Rachel's needs or my parents' expectations. I touch the face of my 6-year-old self, solemn eyes looking directly at the camera. I protected you the way they never did, I whisper. The doorbell rings, Hannah arriving early to help set up for the weekend brunch I'm hosting. I close the album and place it back on the shelf where it belongs, acknowledged but no longer defining me. As I walk toward the sound of Hannah's laughter, I feel the weight of the emerald pendant against my skin. Some inheritances are worth claiming. Others are better left behind.